Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter. I am Brian Zipse of Horse Racing Nation, and as usual, I have the pleasure of being joined by my partner, Matt Shifman, back in New Jersey. Matt, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm 1 month away from the Kentucky Derby, so I'm 1 month away from being even better.
1 month away, is it to the day today? 1 month away from the Kentucky Oaks. 1 month and 1 day from the Kentucky Derby. That's nice.
It's fantastic.
My vibes just got even better after hearing that countdown to the Derby. We're getting close. Matt, let's jump right in. We have a lot to talk about this week with our Kentucky Derby edition of HorseCenter. Big week last week, big week this week. Last week we saw some breakout performances, and one of those was done by a lightly raced Todd Pletcher trained son of a Fleet Alex named Materiality in the Florida Derby. Matt, I think we have him running here, but did you like him going into the race?
I did like him. I mean, his first two races, didn't make any mistakes. He was facing a big challenge here, stepping up against Upstart, one of the horses that many people liked a lot.
Yeah. Upstart has been nothing but quality, nothing but consistent. And Matt, even after seeing Materiality turn him away in the stretch of the Florida Derby, I think if we're just talking Kentucky Derby horses, this is my preference. I think Upstart might have a better chance. I think Materiality is on a meteoric rise, of course, and they got a big speed rating for that Florida Derby. But three races that worries me heading into the Kentucky Derby.
Right. It's the endless topic of the Apollo curse with Materiality, and which means the experience factor. And I'm also a little concerned about Upstart. He's had a little bit of a grueling campaign, and we'll see what happens with both of them.
Yeah, Upstart's had a couple tough races in a row, but I like his consistency. I hope he's a little farther off the pace maybe in Kentucky than he has been in Florida. And sometimes those horses get away from Gulfstream and they improve. Upstart might be a good horse, at least for me, to include in those exotics. Maybe he's a good chance to run second, third, or fourth in a very deep Derby.
It's not too early to start thinking about that Derby trifecta. And the Gulfstream track was playing extremely slow. It was a dead track. It was a hard surface to run your best on.
Yeah, I agree, which might not be a bad thing heading to Churchill. They might, especially Upstart, might relish that experience on a slower track. Materiality, I'm just guessing, nothing against him. I think he's a really nice horse, but I'm just guessing maybe too much too soon for the Derby. Maybe we watch for him as a Belmont horse with that breeding down the road just a little bit farther. Let's go from South Florida over to New Orleans, Matt.
Yeah, the Louisiana Derby, and again, it was that same great performance by International Star. Since he's teamed up with Miguel Mena, and they got onto the strip at Fairgrounds, they've done nothing wrong. Another terrific run, another determined, strong closing move by International Star to sweep the Fairgrounds, Derby Trail, Derby Prep races. International Star, I've always liked them, Brian. And to me, that's a horse that I am definitely going to have on my trifecta ticket for the Derby. I was very disappointed in the ride that War Story got in the race. I didn't understand Joe Talamo. I understood him taking him to the rail right away to save ground, but I didn't understand moving off the rail so quickly, getting stuck in a pack of traffic, and then having to swing way wide. I know he wasn't going to win the race, but he didn't give War Story a chance. And as you said when we chatted, Brian, he just gave the rail, he gave the race to International Star.
Well, I think the best horse won, and I'm finally ready to admit that after being a War Story guy this spring. I'm finally jumping off. Everybody will be happy to know, I think, that I'm finally jumping off that bandwagon. I don't think he was going to win no matter what in the Louisiana Derby, Matt. International Star, he's hard to knock. On the other hand, I don't know if I'm going to like him for the Kentucky Derby either. Maybe I just need to get burned another 3 times before I finally say, wow, love what he did. Game finish to run down Stanford in there. All his wins have come this year at Fairgrounds. Can he do it at another track? I think as you pointed out, Mena has been absolutely terrific in those rides. He gave him another beautiful ride in the Louisiana Derby. But I think you got to give the credit some horse for definitely moving off the rail as he did in early stretch. And it was just another good performance by a good horse. Whether that's enough to run 1-2 or so in the Kentucky Derby, I still have my doubts, but we'll see. Another nice performance by International Star. There was one other big performance by a 3-year-old Saturday, and it came a little earlier in the day for us here in the States. And that's, of course, over in Dubai. Now, this is a horse that I have liked all year. His name is Mubtahij, and Mubtahij ran his best race yet. Matt, interestingly, he's been a mile and a 3/16 twice already. Can this be the year that a horse comes from the desert, comes from the Middle East, and finally really makes some true noise in Kentucky?
Well, he sure seems to have the credentials at this point. His trainer has liked him all along. His trainer has been talking about him all along. And like you said, we know he can get the distance. We know he's got the right running style. It'll be interesting to see. But he certainly moved up, and again, he's certainly a horse that I'm going to have on my trifecta tickets.
Yeah, it was an explosive move on Maidan, and he just blew that field away. He won almost 10 lengths. And Matt, he might be the most experienced horse of anybody. He's had 7 or 8 races, I guess, but he's run 5 times on the dirt since New Year's Eve. He's had those, as I mentioned, 2 races farther than any of the American preps. The question is travel, and the question is the competition there as good as the competition here? So remains to be seen. I think he might be a little bit of an underlay, actually, after everybody saw that race. But he's definitely a threat. Mubtahij. And what an international story. South African trainer, Mike de Kock, one of the biggest trainers globally. He's owned by Sheikh Mohammed. He was bred in Ireland. His jockey is French. And we'll have him all in Louisville in a few weeks.
Right? Maybe he's the international star.
Pretty cool. Oh. So we have 2 international stars, just only one is named that way. I like it, Matt. I like it, Matt Shifman. All right, let's shift gears. We saw those 3 races, liked what we saw from all 3. Are there any Derby winners in there? I don't know. I think we might see some even better ones this weekend, starting in Southern California with the Santa Anita Derby. And if I had to, this is the deepest Derby cast there's been in years, probably at least since 2007 in my eyes, a month out. But if I had to pick one horse to win the Kentucky Derby today, it could very well be Dortmund, undefeated Dortmund. And if I had to pick one dark horse, now that War Story has finally been pushed away from the main plate here in front of me, is Prospect Park, who's going to face him in the Santa Anita Derby. Thoughts on that race, Matt?
Hey, and surprisingly, that field has turned up to be pretty nice. And don't forget Bolo, who ran an awfully nice race the last time out, his first time on the main track off of the turf. He made a heck of a good showing in that race. Got 3 nice horses in that race. And Bolo and Prospect Park, both, they need to get some points. Prospect Park's got 20 now, so he's kind of where I'm seeing the bubble line right now. So he needs to pick up some points, a top 3 finish. Bolo has 10 points. He needs to get a top 3 finish. And then I think both of those horses are in the field. Of course, they want to win, but got 3 nice horses in that race.
Yeah, the three top finishers. We saw the San Felipe here. The 3 top finishers from the San Felipe. Did Dortmund win it easier than his margin of victory there made it look? Very well could be true, but Prospect Park was closing stoutly. Bolo should improve second time dirt. I'm not worried about points, frankly, because if they run second or third again, they have plenty of points to get in the Derby. And if they run worse than that, they shouldn't be coming to Louisville anyway. So points will work themselves out for that cast. Can't fall in love with anybody else yet in that field. I think the winner will come from the San Felipe. And it's hard for me to go against Dortmund, although I think Prospect Park might enjoy the Derby pace and the Derby distance a little bit more. So real horse to keep an eye on.
Yep. So that's what this weekend's 3 prep races really are all about. You got a bunch of horses who are taking their last stab to get enough points to get into the Derby field, and you've got some other horses that are looking to make their next step along the trail, but they have enough points to get in. And certainly that's how going to happen at Aqueduct on Saturday. We're back on the main track. They're back on the main track today for the first time, which is exciting news in New York. And the Wood Memorial Field has actually turned out to be maybe the best, most competitive field out of the three this weekend, which to me was a little bit of a surprise. We got, in my eyes, we got 4 horses who have a legitimate shot to win the race. Some of them need to get some points to qualify, and one of them doesn't. We got Daredevil coming back after his second place in the Swale. He's got 10 points, so he needs to get into the top 3. I'm interested to see what kind of race comes from that horse. Daredevil, I don't know. There's questions with that horse. He's won 2 races. The big Dyer speed figure in the Champagne, but both of his wins have been on a wet track at Belmont Park. Is that one? I don't know. So he needs to show us some more there, but obviously another talented Pletcher runner. We've got El Kabir coming back again off his great closing win at Aqueduct Inner in the Gotham. I love El Kabir. I love the El Kabir story. I don't know. He's in the field. He's got 71 points already. Is trainer Terranova going to have him cranked here? I don't know. He loves to train El Kabir. He loves to compete. He's certainly going to be in contention. He certainly has a shot to win the race. Also, we've got our horse from the Gotham, Brian. Tiz Shady is back. 3rd race. Learned an awful lot in that first stakes attempt with that nice gutsy run up the rail. A horse he should certainly improve off the race. We're not going to get 11-1 this time, Brian, on Tiz Shady, but I don't think he's going to be the favorite. I think El Kabir and Daredevil are certainly going to take their share of money. And then we've got Frosted, also another one from the Kieran McLaughlin barn that we all thought was loaded going into the Derby. That he's had disappointment after disappointment. Frosted is coming off that strange race in the Fountain of Youth where he was setting the pace on the lead, coming around the turn. He looked like he was going to be a runaway winner, and he stopped cold. And here he is back. I don't know. I got a sneaking feeling that he might run well.
Yeah, we lost, of course, Far From Over, who might have been my top pick for the Wood. But you're right. Yep. There are no big heavy favorites in here. There's no seemingly unbeatable horses like maybe Dortmund or Carpe Diem, where we're going to talk about in a minute. So the Wood came up competitive. I wish it was the 5 top ones instead of 4. But yeah, if El Kabir and Daredevil are the favorites, like I kind of agree with you that they will be, I'm looking forward to this as a betting race because I think I like them in the reverse order that you mentioned them. I think that Frosted might be the one to beat. So often we see horses not quite do their best at Gulfstream and come up and improve just a little bit when they get to New York. Frosted's run against some really good horses, obviously Upstart in his last few, and he's been competitive. I think people are off him because of the 2 losses. So if he has some odds, I like him. I think he's got a good shot. And Tiz Shady, yeah, 2 races. For him to run that well in the Gotham, you'd have to think that in his 3rd race there will be improvement. So as the 3rd and 4th choices, I'm interested in both of them, Frosted and Tiz Shady. And you're going to be out there, aren't you, Matt?
I am going to be there, and I completely agree with you on this one, Brian. And you and I are going to break down the Wood Memorial later in the week with a little bit more detailed handicapping analysis and maybe some betting strategy. So the fans should look for that on our website. But I'm leaning with you. I think one of my plays is going to be focusing on Tiz Shady and Frosted.
Good. We're in agreement. That usually works out pretty well for us. Finally, Matt, the last big one I had, and I might be able to get down there and see myself in person, is the Bluegrass on Saturday. Keeneland is opening on Friday. As usual, Keeneland has attracted a plethora of good horses. Friday they have a nice card, and then Saturday gets a little crazy with just a loaded card of good horses running in allowance races and then a series of graded stakes. The big one, though, is the Kentucky Derby Prep. That's the Bluegrass. It's the first Bluegrass on dirt in years. And a lot of people believe that Carpe Diem is the horse to beat come Kentucky Derby right now. He looks to be a heavier favorite than maybe any of the preps so far. I would expect even money won't be seen by Carpe Diem. He's going to be odds on, isn't he?
Oh, without question. When you have a horse that gets even money on the morning line, you know he's a standout in the race. And hey, he hasn't done much wrong in his career, and I think it's going to be another opportunity for Carpe Diem to showcase his talent.
Yeah, and remember last fall he ran a very big race in the second race of his life. He became a runaway Grade 1 victory in the Breeders' Futurity last fall. So we know he likes the surface and the surroundings. No one else in the field has it would be considered a real top 10 Derby contender right now. There are some interesting horses. Can Ocho bounce back? A horse I am looking at, and I've been looking at a little bit all year, is the Nick Zito trained Frumento. A little disappointing in the Holy Bull, but he really made up a lot of ground last time in the Fountain of Youth. Zito seems to think he's coming around at the right time. If he can improve upon that race from the Fountain of Youth, and Carpe Diem's only had one race this year, so you never know. I can't really pick against Carpe Diem as my top pick, but I look at Frumento as a possible horse to run well on Saturday, and then maybe move forward to Churchill.
Yeah, I think Zito has had some past success in the Bluegrass. I think he's won it 3 times in the past, and maybe Gorgeous Bird can maybe wake up a little bit. He also had a disappointing race his last out, and he could maybe do better. Classy Class has been a consistent runner. He's going to have to step up a little more, though.
Yeah, I think so. I think it only gets tougher for Classy Class this time, and leaving New York to come to the Bluegrass is no easy deal for him. All right, so we got some horses who could pop up, but Carpe Diem certainly the horse to beat in the Bluegrass Stakes. Matt, this is the biggest week of preps. This week is probably the biggest. Then next week we have the Arkansas Derby. We see American Pharoah come back, so we'll have a lot to talk about next week. What are you looking forward to most?
Well, I'm always looking forward to a day at the track, and I get to go to Aqueduct, and I get to be there for the Wood. So that makes it extra special. I'm looking for a lot of things to sort out here in terms of who might be qualifying and who we might get to see on the first Saturday in May, and then I'm really looking forward to seeing American Pharoah in another week. Hearing an awful lot of good things about that Zayat runner.
Yeah, it seems they can't talk too much about American Pharoah, and we'll have to wait and see. Like Carpe Diem, he's only had one race, and that was an easy slop win in the Rebel. So we'll have that to look forward to next week. But right now, we got the Bluegrass, we got the Santa Anita Derby, and of course, we got the Wood Memorial. Another Kentucky Derby edition of HorseCenter is in the books, folks. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you watching. Thank you, Matt.
My pleasure.
We're brought to you, of course, by Horse Racing Nation and Derby Wars, and we'll see you all next week, folks.